right, everybody, welcome into another edition of By the Horn, the Bulls podcast for Chicago Sports Network. We're presented by Toyota. Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand. Find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. And the place we're going to today is California for the man in the middle. We are pleased to be joined by Bill Cartwright, starting center on the first three-peat team, who is a newly minted author. Yes, let's say that again, a newly minted author. Bill, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Man in the middle, how many man in the middles has there been? It's like, for me, it was like, wow, man in the middle. Now there's probably about 15 of those by now?
There have been a lot of them. The current one is Nikola Vucevic, a two-time All-Star. But it might have. I don't think it started with you, but you were one of the first. Always a thrill to hear that name in those introductions. Still iconic. But we'll get to some basketball stuff later. But I want to start with some literary stuff because I have two questions for you. How the hell did you become an author before me, and why the hell did you write a book?
Well, this idea really started during the pandemic. And basically there was, as you know, I still do work for our great school, University of San Francisco. So there was nothing to do. And I thought that, if I'm going to evolve from this player to coach, what would be next? Hey, let's go do a book. So we thought about it a while and wanted to do an autobiography. I'll tell you what you guys do is not easy to be able to write. It's really freaking hard. We had to start over probably twice after getting a couple hundred pages each time. But once we got our format, we thought it was going to be really cool. Obviously, it's wanted to reflect us, so we're not going to kill anybody in there. It's going to be really positive and just tell our journey. And I tell you what, we learned a lot about my family, mom, dad, how visionary they were. My dad's from Texas, mom's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Be able to come out, and they met in California, and that story. Relatives and how we ended up where we ended up on the Bean Ranch. My dad was a farm laborer. So just be able to tell that story, it took a while, took a couple of years, but we got it done. It was great. And believe me, I'm happy it's over.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone I've talked to, and I know obviously a lot of people who have written books, including our good friend Sam Smith, but I mean, even non-sports books, I know a lot of people who have written books. Everyone tells me it's a miserable experience. Is this accurate?
It is, because it could never end, because there's so much you can add to it. And it's and I still, even now, wish I would have added more because there's just so much happening with your family. The good part is that my high school friends, they got a taste of that. My high school coach, he's included all my sisters. As you know, I have 6. They got a taste of it. So everybody got a piece of it. So it really became a family thing.
Awesome. Yeah. And I have read the book, and we should plug it now. It's called Living Life at the Center, which is kind of like Man in the Middle. It's by Bill Cartwright with a foreword by another Sacramento native, Dusty Baker. We know that name. And it's a great read, Bill. I've known you a long time, obviously, and I still learned some things about you. I didn't really learn this about you, but I wanted you to go into detail. You mentioned your father was a farm laborer, and I mean, it's just astounding the work ethic that you were shown and you learned at a young age. Why don't you take our listeners through maybe like a typical day for a 10-year-old Bill Cartwright, because it's not a normal a typical day for most 10-year-olds or 12-year-olds. I mean, just take us through what you had to do at a young age on that farm.
What you got to remember is that my dad was a workhorse, and my dad grew up in Texas. My dad's the oldest of 4 children. So my dad at a young age, his nickname was Man. And that was because when he was a little kid, he could do the work of a man. So that was my dad, a workhorse. So he would figure out a way for you to work. So I still remember that I learned how to drive cars and tractors. So my dad put me on this tractor, and I thought it was super cool. I was a little kid, so I'm driving this tractor around. So he's like, hey, he can work. So I ended up that summer, I was driving a tractor. I'm like 10, 11 years old, and we're irrigating fields, driving a tractor. So what was fun, of course, Dad, he found some work out of you.
Yeah, that's funny. We didn't even practice this. That's the anecdote I was hoping you bring up on the tractor, because I had
there's more. There's plenty more.
I know, but that detail just jumped off the page because I've known you for a long time, but I'm like, I did not know you were driving a tractor at the age of 10.
Oh yeah, driving a tractor. I was probably like 5'10" then. So he can figure it out.
But more seriously, like, obviously when you have an example of that work ethic growing up, I mean, how much do you think that led into your basketball prowess and your basketball career? It had to have some impact or effect, right?
Yeah, well, more was better, obviously. So my dad was a big believer in doing more. But it was normal for us because it was the whole family. We were out there picking tomatoes, hoeing sugar beet fields. Everybody was doing some kind of manual labor. And it was all day, but it was normal. And the weekends too, because we did clean stores, we painted houses. Naturally, you had to mow lawns. But it was part of the package. It wasn't abnormal. So now you're in the gym, and it was actually great, especially you play basketball. You're inside. So it's like I got air conditioning, and all I have to do is just play basketball and be nice and cool. I got water. So it was great. And I love sports, so baseball, basketball, football. And just working hard and doing more was just normal, the nature of the beast. Along with I had a pretty aggressive high school coach, which really helped me and changed everything about how I played and shooting the ball. And his philosophy was definitely more. So when I was a kid, I always felt that I didn't shoot more than everybody at school. I didn't shoot more than everybody in California. I shot more than everybody in this whole freaking nation. So we just worked, but it was fun. It was fun. You're a little kid. You're young. You're junior high school. You're in high school. You're just playing, man. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, different. And basketball probably felt, like you said, like a vacation compared to what you were doing on the farm. But but different era, obviously. But you obviously then got into coaching. You were head coach of the Bulls, assistant coach with the Bulls, assistant coach for many other franchises, including New Jersey Nets and Phoenix Suns. But did you ever in coaching sometimes just look at players in this era and say, work ethic, man? It's like I worked on a farm. How did you keep from biting your tongue with some of these kids' work ethics in this day and age, man?
Well, look, most guys, even now, they have a sense of work, but they don't know how to get it done or the standard that you work at. And so we don't shoot shots to shoot them. We shoot shots to make them. So it's like, yeah, we're not gonna shoot 10 shots. We're not gonna shoot 20 shots. We're gonna shoot 20 makes. And I think once you raise guys' standards, so that they have an idea of how they're gonna get better, the guys are fine. But guys need teachers of basketball, and I think that's what we had growing up. You and I have that. We had guys that taught, and instead of just letting guys play and let them do what they want to do. So guys are still guys. They want to learn, and gals too. They want to get better. How are they going to do that? They're taught that way. So just like a kid.
Well, it's perfect you bring up Todd because obviously those longtime Bulls fans that are listening will know that your nickname on that first three-peat team was Teach, and obviously such a valuable presence in that locker room and on the court. The book was great about, your whole basketball career, but since we're doing a Bulls podcast, we're going to zero in on the Bulls and just take us through again, that feeling you first had when Jerry Krause made the pretty shocking trade at the time of Charles Oakley to the New York Knicks for you. You detail it in the book, but for those that are listening to this podcast, take us back to that time in your life.
Well, I was in Hawaii. I was on vacation finally from the Knicks. I thought I would never be traded. I was rumor traded every single year, but got traded on the phone with Jerry, and Jerry's like, "Hey, you're traded. You gotta come to Chicago." I'm like, "I'm in Hawaii." He says, "When do you want me to come?" He said, "Now." So hopped in a plane, went to Chicago, met Jerry at the Knickerbocker Hotel, which was interesting. And Jerry was great. It was great to have to be traded to Chicago, someplace that wanted me there and wanted me to do well. Met with him and ended up going back to Hawaii, but. It was a great experience, and my foundation of being in New York, as you know, once you play in New York, nothing's going to bother you. There's not one single thing. You've been on a huge stage that you've had your face on the back of the post, good or bad. So I was just ready to do whatever they needed me to do. Doug Collins was there first year. Doug was great with me. I played against Doug, and then later on Phil came in and, really implemented Al Vermeil and Tex Winter and Johnny Bach and all those guys. And so we became a real team, but it was just a great experience. But the biggest thing is that, to be able to play a role, to be part of those young guys. People talk about those years all the time, and I tell them, look, Scottie Pippen couldn't make a 15-foot jump shot. We had to work to get better. The only guy who was already there was probably Michael, because he was so blessed with his talent and skills. But the rest of us had to find our way. So it was a great 2-year journey to get there and win our first championship. So I was just very lucky, very blessed to be there. And I had nothing, even though it was hard work, nothing but positive things to say about it.
Yeah. When you're obviously a student of the game, I mean, when you first get there, do you see the inklings of a championship team or not?
Well, yeah, I think that, because they were on the rise already, along with, when having the best player in the league. And then now, with the guys that we added, I mean, we had a really good starting lineup the way it was, with myself, Horace, Pip, MJ, and then John Paxson. But just our guys coming off the bench, guys like Cliff Livingston and the greatest shooter on the planet at that time was Craig Hodges. I love Craig. So we had a really, really good team and the foundation of a really good team. And it just took us a couple of years to overcome the dreaded Detroit Pistons. And that I think I talked about that in the book, that we should always thank them, because after we were able to overcome them, we were able to win 3 straight championships. So it's really because of them and learning how to play despite how they played, we're able to move forward and become the best team in the league. So it was a great lesson.
The book also details your coaching career, and I want to start it asking about that from this perspective. How much did Phil kind of influence your playing career, and then what did you take from him, if anything, into your coaching career?
Well, the biggest thing that Phil did extraordinarily well was stay on balance, just to stay balanced. Good times and bad. We're not going to get too low. We're not going to get too high. We're going to work. We're just trying to get better every day. It was a pleasure to be in those meetings where some of the coaches, guys like Tex, would scream at guys. Phil would be, and look, we're just going to try to figure out a way to make that guy better. So it was really a positive way he had about everything and how he handled everything in more of a positive way of getting people better. We're going to work together better instead of a lot of coaches. And I've been with a lot of them. They just want to kill guys. So Phil, really learned a lesson from that of being thoughtful, especially how you spoke to people. So, and also, we have a variety of guys in the room, guys like Tex Winter, of course, who I spent probably the most time with. Tex was great. Johnny Bach was great. Jim Clemens was great. Frank Hamlin, who was a great coach in the league. Just to be able to be in a room and learn from those guys, really, really special.
Another thing I've always heard consistently about Phil is that he really empowered everybody on the roster from 1 through 15. Like I've heard 15th men, 14th men type players tell me that, Phil made them feel important and valued and gave them a role. I mean, you saw that play out in multiple fashions, including obviously like Bobby Hansen coming in and, turning around that finals game in '92. I mean, so was that something that he was really good at as well, Phil Jackson?
Phil was great. And, Phil was an old-time coach in the sense that he's going to play 10 guys, maybe 11 guys during the course of the game. So that second group, I call them second group of starters, really had a different identity than this group of starters that was out there. And it was great because that team could be more a pressing team. That team could, offensively, maybe they attacked a little more. So we really had two teams marching out there. And it's because of the fact that we played those guys during the course of the season. You mentioned Bobby Hansen, Jeb Bushler, guys coming off the bench with our guy Will Purdue, Stacey King, Scott Williams, of course BJ, who could have been a starter, just a really, really good player.
Yeah.
So guys had an opportunity every night to play. So that's what really made our team really great, is that we had a lot of guys who were going to play every night, and that was part of Phil's thing. Why don't they do that now? What is up?
Well, I will say the current Bulls are playing 11 deep because they're trying to play a fast up-tempo style, and Billy Donovan's got a lot of development projects on his hands. So Billy is pretty consistent with previously wanting to play 8 to 9 guys, but he's going 11 deep almost every game, sometimes 12 deep. Now, not all those guys play heavy minutes, but it's happening with your current Bulls, Bill Cartwright. So there you go, man.
Well, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm going to have to pay attention a little more. I do peep in a lot of games. Just lay off the 3-point shots, and I won't have to turn the TV off. That's all. We're going to outside every now and then.
That's on my list. We're going to save that for the end and debate about is the game ruined. But hang on. We're going to first get into your coaching career in a little more detail because obviously if you're listening to this, you're a Bulls fan, so you know about Bill's association with the second three-peat as an assistant coach and then the head coaching opportunity that Jerry Krause gave him after Tim Floyd. But I want to tackle and let you detail what some people may not know, your non-NBA coaching career, which I've always found fascinating. After you left the Bulls, you went on, as I mentioned before, to be assistant coach with New Jersey and Phoenix. I might have missed one, but I think that's it. But take us through where else you coached after that, because some listeners or readers will not know this, and I've always admired this about you and found it fascinating.
Well, and I do talk about this in the book, is that I haven't made a lot of decisions in my life. So look, high school, I ended up at USF basically because the other two schools knocked themselves off. I get drafted to the Knicks. I get traded to the Bulls. Then I go to the Sonics. And then now, when I get done playing, after I finish grad school, I decided to go into business for myself. I was a business guy. And then that's when I got a phone call from Jerry Krause to come to Chicago. And I talk about this in the book, is that it's interesting because I tried to talk Jerry, tell him I'm not going to come because there's too many guys in front of me, and I'm not going to step over those guys. So because I said that, Jerry thought I had great character, and I was just trying to get out of not going. So anyway, I kind of viewed that as this is what I should be doing. Ended up coaching. After that, I was at a basketball camp, and Lawrence Frank called me up, asked me to come to Jersey. So I ended up there for 4 years. It was a great experience with Jason Kidd and that group. And then ended up, of course, we got our fired there, and then ended up getting a phone call from Steve Kerr, and now I'm in Phoenix. And that's Steve Nash, that's Marty Stoudemire, that's Shaq. That's a great group of guys. Shaq was really funny. I had a great time with him that year. So after 4 years, booted out of there. And then I ended up, you remember this, I went to Japan for a year.
This is what I'm talking about. Let's go.
And coach Osaka, and I got a phone call. I was at a basketball camp. This guy asked me to take over this team. We were 5-19. Got there. We were able to turn the team. It was just too far. I couldn't stay there. They came all the way back. And then now I get a phone call to come to Mexico to be the coach of the Mexican national team. And I'm like, this sounds interesting. So I took a shot at that, and they discovered they were the exact opposite of the Japanese, who are extraordinarily organized. Everything's on task. Everything's mañana in Mexico, so we're out of there. And then I ended up back at my school, University of San Francisco, thanks to our great president, Father Paul Fitzgerald. So there you go. Just a nice course of events. As you know, I like to stay busy.
I know, and you're also always about the life experiences, which I've always admired about you. And you got to read the book for the Japan experience, because even though it was short-lived, I mean, you had success there, and it seems like such a rich life experience. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I always view things where even if they're not super duper great, you're going to learn a lesson from being there. And if it's great, you learn. If it's not so great, you learn. So that's how I kind of view it. Luckily, I've been in situations that have been pretty super great. I've lived in great cities. So it's been a great experience to go through this journey. But I'm not done yet, pal. So don't. It's not the end.
I'm not pushing you out to pasture. I know you. Yeah. And we haven't really scratched the surface of your USF career. I mean, obviously, it's a legendary program with the Bill Russell influence, and then you're standing there, and now you work for your alma mater, which is really cool. But you can buy the book and read about that in there. You mentioned Stacey King before, and we wouldn't be a By the Horns Bulls podcast, if I didn't ask you to elaborate on your memories of Stacey King as a teammate, since he works for our station.
Stacey was a great teammate. And it's funny, you could probably remind Stacey, I'm sure he has, of the chicken episode where he missed the plane. And I'm not sure how I got blamed for the fact that he missed the plane because he was a rookie and he had to go get chicken. My thing is that if you can't find a chicken place, don't go. So, but yeah, he missed the plane and cost him some money for some chicken. So,
do you know that this just circulated on Instagram yesterday? Did you know this story? Because they had like old footage of Stacey detailing this and you chuckling about it. And basically, what happened was Stacey King was rookie haze. They sent him out for chicken after the game, and you had like a half hour till your late night flight left for the next city. And Stacey couldn't find the chicken or couldn't find the flight and missed the flight and had to fly to Atlanta on his own the next day and pay for it. So this is crazy you bring this up because this just circulated on Instagram yesterday.
Yeah, well, he wasn't the only rookie that had to go get chicken. I think BJ had to do it. I think Scott Williams, they were able to do it. Somebody help him. But if he had chicken trouble, who couldn't find humor in that? So that's all I'm saying. If you can't find the chicken, get him. Don't miss the flight. We'll get the chicken later.
Stacey. Stacey's got his own pod, but hopefully you'll hear this on the By the Horns podcast. That's great stuff. But yeah, great teammate, funny guy, always kept things loose, and good player. Obviously important on that first three-peat.
Really, really good player. But I would always tease him, Stace. You do have a right hand. I mean, your left hand is really great. Go right every now and then. Try to trick him a little bit. So I think it took him a couple of years, but he was able to go right. Actually, you should ask him about that. Can you still go right? Because you definitely couldn't go when you first got to Chicago. But I think that he worked on it.
I'll ask him. I'll make sure to ask him. All right, you opened up the can of worms that is the debate about the modern NBA, which a couple weeks ago was all the rage. The Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla. It's interesting. We're taping this on Tuesday. The Bulls play in Boston tomorrow, and recently Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla was repeatedly asked to defend his style of play as the Celtics take upwards of 50 pointers every game. The Bulls have embraced this offensive philosophy this season. They're ranked second in the NBA in both 3-point makes and takes. Obviously, Steve Kerr has won titles using this formula as well. Your old buddy and boss and teammate. So where do you stand on the game is ruined as an old head? Class of NBA draft 1979, Magic Johnson, David Greenwood, and third overall pick Bill Cartwright. Where do you stand on the game is broken, too many 3-pointers? It sounds like you're in.
Well, it's crazy. It's having a diverse offense. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with the ability to, if you need a 2-point basket, to be able to throw the ball in down the post, especially with the rules nowadays, you can't touch anybody. So when you're in the penalty, you're telling me casting up a 3-point shot is better than getting a post touch? So it's just, okay. If it doesn't make sense, it's probably nonsense. So I don't know how you want to justify it. If you got some numbers guys over there to justify it, there's a word that, I hate to use, but it's pretty stupid. So you have to have a versatile offense, and as a matter of fact, I was talking to Dusty, who did my forward. I said, Dusty, what is all these home run balls that are going up? And this is what he tells me. I don't know. He has no idea. So I guess Rod Carews out of luck. Tony Gwynn's out of luck. They got to swing for the fences every time. It's the same nonsense that some guys you have on your team, and we were blessed with the fact we had Trent Tucker, Greg Hodges, Steve Kerr, John Paxson on our team, 3-point shooters. What's wrong with having some 2-point scorers? Adrian Danley's out of luck. He can't play. What is going on? So what does that sound like? Nonsense. Somebody scored on a post. And this is what really drives me crazy. And you've seen this. It's a 1-point game, right? What are you shooting a 3 for? You need a 2-point basket. All right, I'm done.
And get off your lawn. Get off your lawn.
That's got to drive you crazy, too. I know it's driving Stacey crazy over there, going, you guys are maniacs out here. So, but you can't say it, he can't say it, so I'll say it. Nonsense.
Well, Stacey brings it up on the air quite often. He thinks, Vucevic is an interesting subject because obviously he has the ability to get post touches and
he can post. He's good.
Yeah, but he also is a stretch 5. So Stacey's talking all the time, like get in the post, get on the ball in the post. So Stacey's making your argument on the air, on our very airwaves as well. So you'll be.
Yeah, got some common sense here. Till Stace, tell him at least he hasn't lost his sense. to be able to throw it inside of the post. So I don't know. I don't get it. So, but you know what? Nobody my age, I'm 67 this year. Nobody this age is like that brand of basketball, even though we love the players. The players are great. They're talented. They're well trained. They work hard. They just play nonsense basketball.
There it is. All right. Let's end it here. What did you learn about yourself while writing this book? I'm sure a lot, but what did you learn about yourself in writing this book?
Well, I've learned what I've already known. I'm a product of who I grew up with. My parents, my coaches. I write in there. I don't have a horror story. I had a great family. I had great coaches coming up. I had great direction. I was able to go to the University of San Francisco and learn about the world, learn about the fact that I could not only be a sports guy, but I could have my own business. I could be a CEO of a company. I could do anything that I really aspire to do. And so I've actually owned, as you know, a few companies, whether it's a car business, whether it's a background check business. I still have my restaurant in Highwood. Come on, everybody get over there. Highwood, Illinois. Froggies. Get over to Froggies. Our chef over there, Terry LaFleur and Terry Mace, they would love to see you guys. Yeah, you just learn a lot about yourself. So, but I'm a reflection of every single person I've been around.
That's very well said. Again, the book is Living Life at the Center. It's by Bill Cartwright with a foreword by Dusty Baker. I highly recommend this book. It's a fantastic read. And as I mentioned before, I've known Bill a long time, and even I learned a thing or two about it. And, you know, even though this has been a great podcast, we haven't even really scratched the surface. So the book will flesh out some detail. I mean, I'm glad you threw in the restaurant at the end there, which is in Highwood, called Froggies, because Bill's a Renaissance guy. He's got his hands in a lot of different things. We haven't even mentioned our shared love for the guitar. I mean, he's got his hands in a lot of different things. And one thing I've always admired about you, Bill, is just your curiosity and your passion for life. So keep doing that, and we appreciate your time on the By the Horns podcast today.
Well, I really appreciate being on. Thank you so much. And don't you think we're not watching it? We're still watching. You guys are doing a great job. And hopefully the Bulls are, we got a chance. You guys got like in the 10th spot right now. I still have friends of mine.
Let's see how they're constructed after the trade deadline, because management is more concerned about a first-round pick that they owe the Spurs unless they're one of the 10 worst teams. Isn't there always something in this league, Bill? You know that, man. So.
Well, I'm sure Billy Donovan's thinking just win some games.
That's what a coach's job is. You know that. So yeah,
I know what the locker room's like if you lose. So
yeah,
just win some games. The Bulls fans are still great. They're coming out. Got to be happy about that. Chicago's a great sports town. We're going to lose or draw. People are going to come and watch, and you guys are doing a good job. Just keep it going. And occasionally get a post up.
And on that note, I'll make sure to ask Stacey about his right hand. And we want to thank Bill Cartwright for joining us on By the Horns podcast, presented by Toyota. Toyota has more all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive vehicles than any other brand. Find yours and shine on. Toyota, let's go places. Thanks for listening to this episode, and we will catch you next time.